Yes, hello and welcome to the Red Centre Racing Review. I'm your host, Pat Comerford, and thank you very much for joining us. Day 2 of the 2019 Ladbrokes Alice Springs Carnival commences this Saturday. An early kick-off time with race 1 of 8 set to jump at 12:16 p.m. Well, it's certainly a big card. Let's find ourselves a winner.
Imparja presents the Alice Springs Turf Club Red Centre Racing Review.
The Alice Springs Turf Club this weekend is excited to have a total of 70 acceptors across 8 races. Rail is in the true position, DR is the code. Saturday forecast partly cloudy, 32 degrees. We head to the 1100 metre mark for race number 1, our second 2-year-old plate for the year. Well, with plenty of races to get through on Saturday afternoon, there's going to be no beating around the bush today. Unfortunately, the first race is quite an easy one. Of course, with 2-year-olds, form can be quite tough, but I can't go past the 1 here after its win in the first plate a fortnight ago. Yes, it's Shift the Risk for Halter and Viger, a confident on-top selection for me here in race 1. I'm sticking with the 2nd and 3rd place getters as well, Zephyr Grove and Dawn of the North with blinkers on this start for the Miners. And finally, a new addition, trialling very well a couple of weeks ago, the Future King, with the hope that it loads into the gates nicely before the start. 1, 11, 7 and 5. The second race is a Class 6 for the 3-year-olds over 1100 metres as well. Now off last week's performance, I'm going to have to stick with Golden Dice here in this open affair. I've got big watches though on Maiden Grace and Go Gold Coast as well. They're in for my place picks. Finally, for 4th, I also have a close eye on Razor Beer. This horse last start presented up front in the run like it usually does, yet dropped off in the straight. As to why, I'm not sure. I've put a line through that last start and I'm very interested to see how it goes with not only the rider change but less ground as well. It's the 1 Golden Dice from 5, 2 and 4. Race 3 is a 0 to 62 sprint over 1,000 metres, 10 runners taking to the course. It's the Alice Springs Turf Club Sprint, a race with multiple new additions to Alice Springs, such as Icelandic Star from South Australia and Our Instinct from New South Wales. In this third on the card, we have Beth Rose, a speedy mare who I expect to be up front contending early here. Heart of Eden, a horse that had much success early and makes a long-awaited return to the track here with a great trial performance here to prove it certainly hasn't lost its knack for racing. Allspice could certainly surprise. The lack of ground, though, is the worry. Finally, Gran Castano, who always is a necessary addition for those playing the exotics. Lots of chances, but I finally arrived on 6, 2, 5 and 4 in race number 3. The 4th of the day is our maiden race for the afternoon, a full field of 12 fighting it out over the 1,400 metres to get that first victory to their name. Now with extra ground here, certain runners do stand out, hopefully with a bit of a price to its name as well in the market. I'm going to be giving Kid Rock a chance this Saturday. Its run home in 58 class last meeting at a price for 3rd was really enough to give me some confidence in this horse. It's on top from Kummelings, who's been very consistent but draws the car park. Lunch Money was very honest in its first race on the track. It could most certainly be in the finish. And finally, Hilda's Vini, who unlike some of these won't find the 1,400 an issue provided its fitness is up to scratch. 2, 10, 12 and 1, race 4. A small field of 5 runners for the 5th on the card here, a benchmark 76 1,400. Yes, the 10-year-old and former Alice Springs Cup winner Pretty Blonde returns to the Alice and starts her final ever carnival campaign after a long and successful career over the last decade. But it does meet some nice company here over 1,400 metres. Quantum Dot's last run is certainly a forgive. The race really wasn't run to suit. Once again, it gets a featherweight on field as well. It doesn't look like there's going to be much race speed, as unfortunately last start the field got really strung out. Jack Sim gets a big helping hand here in the scales room and along with its ability, it should be able to be in the finish here. Top weight McKenna should also lead this field, but with a string of victories at low weights, hopefully it doesn't feel the 59 kilos too much. And finally, Rhythm of Cuba is also a watch with a win in similar circumstances to its name in our final meeting last year. 4 on top from 2, 1 and 6. Race number 6 sees us for the first time this year take the barriers past the mile all the way out to the 1900, where 9 runners will pass the post twice. A nice prelude for some of our cup contenders already here in Central Australia. Now, Lotion has had good success here at the distance and also impressed recently in a 1900 metre race up in the top end. Brendan Davis once again takes the ride. The Darwin St Patrick's Day Cup winner Mazzaro I'd expect also to be looming late if the speed is on up front throughout the race. Victorian traveller All Hard Wood certainly has the ability and can run the distance. The question is the surface and how it handles the dirt, both underfoot and in its face. Finally, I'm throwing in Lindwall on the back of its run last week. It fought on well late and will hopefully relish even more ground. 3, 4, 1 and 7 in the Stayers race. 2 races are still to come. The next, another field of 5, a weight for age plate. Well, as they say, good things do come in small packages, and even though we only have 5 in this 7th event on the day, it doesn't mean we aren't in for a good show. Ex-Chris Waller horse Wayanka, after an impressive trial display, debuts in the NT for new trainer Russell Bell. On that pre-race performance, I have to have it on top here, but I'm sure top-end stalwart El Toronado, who is also by Costa del Lago, is having its first run here in Alice. It's not going to be too far away and potentially in the finish as well. That's Justified could also throw in a big performance on its day. And finally, Live Fast is in for 4th. In race 7, it's 5-1, 4 and 2. Well, it's the lucky last of the day over 1,200 metres, a 0 to 66 handicap with a total of 9 runners. Now, I'm always one for winning form, but with the shift in the scales and the barrier draw here, I really do think the Terry Hewish-trained Copernicus makes up that 3-length deficit on Cunning Moves from last start. Now, don't get me wrong, Cunning Moves is going to take a whole lot of beating, but the way I think the market will play with multiple chances in this race, Copernicus each way might be worth a look. Now, Cunning Moves is in for 2nd. Nordic Eclipse on a 7-day backup, certainly a tick. It's my 3rd pick. Rhythmical in for 4th, who didn't find the lead last start and still ran on well. 5-1, 2 and 3 in the last. It's now time for Best Bets. Now for Best Bets, I'm heading to the first and last races of the day. My suggested win bet is, of course, Shift the Risk in race number 1, looking at one-upping its performance from 2 weeks ago. Hopefully a price of better than even money for this runner with the size of the field. Also, in the last race, Copernicus each way. After its first up performance as well, should be a nice safe wager to the end of the day of racing on Saturday here in Alice Springs. Well, yes, that's all we have for you here today. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you on course Saturday afternoon or tuning in across the country on the red and blue channels. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll catch you next week for another edition of the Red Centre Racing Review.